DIY trellises, easy planners, just a couple hours to pull off these simple trellises. So this video, I'm gonna walk you through how to build these trellises. I've built dozens, different varieties. We'll explore some other material considerations for different applications. Really easy for whether it's privacy or for a garden, as well as quick look at some different raised beds that I've made in the past and some options and some considerations. You can use the timestamps if you want to skip on around, but here we have some sweet trellises. So there are loads of different trellis styles. This is just a really simple way. It's very similar to what we're going to show you in this video, but you can extend your fence, do some privacy fencing, or you can do an octagonal one, right, for planters and all kinds of different ones. This is great for tomato cages, sweet peas. You can even do a really simplistic one like this, where it's super basic. We did add a little bit more to it, but this is a great way to get your younger kids involved, some basic tools, or help you if you're feeling a little intimidated. But for this project, we are doing just a basic trellis, but it's custom. And what's great about making your own is you can really customize it to whatever space you have and exactly what you want. I love using these pre-stained cherry timbers for the frame, the structure. And so go ahead, you cut them to size, your width, your height, and then pocket holes. While of course you could just use a nail gun or nail or screws on the outside, these are recessed screw holes that are pocket holes. So they're not seen, they're not visible, and screws are just so much stronger. If you're just going to assemble something with nails, it's going to fail on you over time. Here's another example of a pocket hole jig. So I'll link these down below. There's a lot of different ones. Big idea is you're angling in the screw, and at an angle, it's a stronger hold, it's a stronger bond, and then you're using some good screws. If I just went in from the end, it would actually split the wood right along the end grain. So really recommend pocket holes or at least doing screws for this solid frame construction. Then go ahead and measure where you want the bottom to be. You want to give yourself at least 2 feet to go into the ground, maybe even cut it at an angle. I have done this before where I put the stakes into the ground ahead of time and then I built it up. I think you don't need to do that. We'll talk about some ways to fortify it. But really simple. I mean, we're making a simple box to start with. And so here are those pressure treated or pre-stained 2x2s. I think they're strong enough and they're not as big as 2x4s, but these have lasted, right? I've done some of these about 8-9 years ago, and they still look the same way years later. Then, once you have your frame, you got to think about what lattice material. Now, you can buy some lattice like this, but it's really pricey. And again, it's already custom, sized. This one in particular is so thin. This will last you a season, and then once you pull the stuff off, it's going to rip. So I like to make my own with fence pickets. So you, of course, could just get some Western red cedar, like a lot of the other ones. I usually get one that's pre-stained, whether it's a gold-stained fir or a whitewood. That color, it just lasts for a couple years. That's the aesthetic that we're going for, but kind of depends if you're making these for yourself or for others. Maybe you just go with the cedar. Now, I am using a table saw, and I'm referencing, you want to use a corrosion inhibitor. If you have a saw like a saw stop, it is going to retract that blade, and it's going to destroy a blade if you run wet wood through it. Now, these fence materials, all this wood, it's soaking wet. Even if it feels dry to the touch, it's wet, so I had to put it in bypass mode. Of course, you could use a job site saw like I have here. This is my old DeWalt saw. Now I have this one where, that steel, it's going to rust if I don't do a corrosion inhibitor, and if I don't have the saw in bypass mode. For some of you, nothing of what I just said makes sense. Big idea, a table saw, you can rip the long ways cut, these smaller strips. So I'm doing 1-inch rips. Now you can buy wood already pre-cut, but that's just gonna be a lot more pricey. But with the fence pickets, it's about 5/8 of an inch thick. So it's thicker, it's stronger, it lasts season after season after I pull the vines out and clean it up. So what I'm doing now is these are 1-inch wide pieces, and I have a piece in between as just acting as a spacer. And just doing a couple brad nails, 18 gauge brad nails on either end, just to kind of get it in place. And that's mostly, it's somewhat secure, but you can see how flimsy it is on the bottom. Now going the other direction, this is adding a lot more structure. And so again, 1 inch is the look I went for. You could certainly do bigger gaps, wider spaces. But here we're just using, those each board as a spacer, and I get that perfect checkerboard effect. And then I'm using a thinner nail, 1 inch tops, to attach the two pieces together, right? And so if you go too long, it's going to pop through. So there's a quick trellis. We're going to get back to the trellis and talk a little bit more, but the sponsor of this video is Landguard. Going to talk about these really, really simple corrugated metal planters. Now, I've done a ton of different planters in the past. Wood, I've even done some DIY corrugated ones. I've done stone. These are very affordable, extremely affordable, almost more affordable than buying the materials yourself, honestly. And it's really simple. And so they reached out, and I thought, yeah, we want to do some more garden beds, and this is perfect. I love the height, right? These are 2 feet high. You could get them even higher, less bending over, less rabbits getting into our harvest. And right now it looks somewhat flimsy. It's really not. And so it is the simplest thing. I could have let my kids put this together by themselves. My 5-year-old basically did it, did one of them by himself. And then there's these little center supports. It just makes it stronger. So over time, it's not going to cave in on itself. And so that's a really important step. Anyway, it's pretty solid, but what's great about this is actually the bottom is empty. So you figure out your spot that you want, and you want to make sure your bed is level. And so I'm just marking out where it's going to go, and then I'm taking out the high spots. You don't have to remove the dirt. You don't have to do landscaping material underneath like you would with a traditional one. With one this tall, you actually want eventually your roots to go down deep, right? And so we kind of got it in place. Figure it out. A level is helpful, right? Making sure you get it nice and flat, because once it's there, once you fill it up, it is going to be hard to move it. And so it might look not as secure right now, but it is actually plenty strong. So we got it in place. It's good. It's great. All right, now we got 2 of them. So these are the 3 foot wide, deep by 6 foot long, and then they're 2 feet tall. There's a lot of different options that they have. But here you can see I had to level it out a little bit more. This is just to get it level. You could leave all your grass there, but there's a lot of options. So definitely check the link down below. It's surprisingly affordable, how quick you can get these. Lots of different shapes and sizes, a lot of possibilities, really easy. And what I like about these as well is the top ridge. It is got a fold over of the metal, so it's not sharp on the top like if you made your own, like I've in the past, and we definitely cut ourselves. There's also add-ons. This is just quick, some I've done in the past, right? So these cinder blocks, sure, it works great. And we spent so much time building this garden at our old house, but this isn't a raised bed, right? I mean, it's a little bit raised on one side, but you can see over here. Now we grew a ton of stuff here, and it was great, but it was weed care every year. We had rabbits, we had all kinds of things. I've made my own corrugated ones with wood. They did not last. They didn't hold up. And it did take some time. Now it's doable, but a DIY, most of you don't have the tools. Most folks don't have the tools to make it, and figuring out the hardware. Check out that wood one that fell apart after 1 year. I've built wood ones. They don't last either. So you can see those in the background. We'll show a little bit more on these Landguard units, filling them up, a little bit more in considerations. But here we're building the second trellis. Again, it is really rinse and repeat. And truly, you could do, depending on the size, you could do 1 trellis in an hour. It is quick. You just got to get your strips ripped down, cutting, and then it's just a lot of brad nails or pin nails. And then you're set. And so one thing to note, though, that this wood is really wet. And so if you're going to cut this wood, you need to plan on using it right away. The wood is soaking wet, even if it doesn't feel wet. Like I mentioned, it is wet, and as it dries, it is going to warp. It's going to be those crazy boards. So if you do this project, plan on ripping the cuts and then nailing them right away so they go in place. But it is heavy. That thing is a beast. I recommend 2 people, especially a big panel like this, which is, basically, 5-ish feet by 7 feet. All right, I'm filling the bottom with a bunch of clippings, branches and whatnot. I've done this in the past where I put logs and other branches, but you don't need to fill that full 2 feet with dirt. I have a pile of wood chips. I have all these, branch clippings. So any kind of, organic material, whether it's branches, I mean, it could be grass clippings, but fill up most of that space with wood, or, chunks of logs and other things that over time is going to break down. And then we're filling in some wood chips here, right? So you don't have to do your primo potting soil and dirt, but basically half full, you want to just put in a bunch of other organic material. And you can see those little center divider things that's keeping everything tight. And as I fill it up, like it's pretty good, then cardboard, right? And so you don't want to do the glossy stuff or plasticky, just the cardboard that's going to break down and then get it nice and flat. And then we'll put the dirt on. But I do want to talk about securing this. Now, over time, right, we got about 2 feet of earth material that's going to be in here. But as the wind goes, especially if this is full of vines that are growing in the lattice, it's going to blow over with the wind. And so just adding a little piece of wood and just a wood screw, a construction wood screw going right through the metal. You don't need to get a specialized metal screw, just, your construction screw. Go through the metal and then through that little piece of scrap wood. You could even use another one of those 2x2 pieces, and then you're going to go through and then it's going to attach the whole thing. That's going to make it so much more secure. It's also going to make sure your posts are plumb, so level straight up and down, but plumb. And so it also is just going to prevent it from tipping. And so I recommend doing a screw on the top and the bottom at least, on either post. If you're really concerned about supports, you could even put a center support if you didn't want to do a wide. This is a 5-foot wide panel. So if you want a little bit more structure or rigidity, you could do that. But it is pretty strong. And so I didn't have any issues. You can see it moves a little bit, but once I fill this with dirt, it really doesn't move at all. Of course, you could do some angle braces on the back if you really wanted to, but I think that would take away from the effect. See, yeah, angle braces, like, hey, maybe you'll do that. This is a ginormous trellis. This one's a lot bigger. If you're really concerned, maybe instead of making a flat panel, you can make it kind of L-shaped, or something like that. Here's the other one. We did have a support in there as we got started, and then it's good. All right, so now we're going to fill it with dirt. You could do bags, and I've definitely done my share of bags. Usually there's those spring Black Friday sales where you can get bags of good stuff from Home Depot, but just get a delivery of dirt. Your local, topsoil company, get you a good mix of garden mix. We had a huge pile that we've been using for all these tree planting and all kinds of things through the years. And then just go ahead and drop it on in, get yourself a good wheelbarrow, and then fill her on up with dirt. So a couple other styles for trellises. This is one I made in my classroom for my school years ago. Again, you can see that same cherry tone pre-stained 2x2s. This one's a lot stronger, right? It was about a foot wide, with multiple posts. I did pocket holes all throughout, but here the material was chicken wire, and then I'm using a pneumatic stapler and then stapling all the chicken wire in place. Now, I would recommend doing the chicken wire over that lattice, wood, but I made a bunch of these different ones. You can see those wooden planters that didn't make it. They worked really well, and these actually have lasted, about 7 years. Here's some other trellises, some just simple ones. You can really play around with it. You can get kind of crazy with it, do these cool shapes like this. See how it filled up with all those green beans? It's awesome. Or you can make a smaller version, a shorter one. So there are so many possibilities of trellises. It's really simple. A table saw is going to make everything a lot easier. So find a friend who's got one, or just get yourself a job site saw. But here's our gardens in the past. We even made a whole video on the trellis process if you want even more considerations. You can also do this for money. Here's a local nursery, and these really small ones, look how much they're charging for it, right? $80 for that trellis, which is like 2.5 feet by 4 feet. And you can get a little bit more intricate. Most of these are cedar. Now, cedar does cost a little bit more, but $240, right? So think about that as a moneymaker. Facebook Marketplace is honestly a great place to start. Word of mouth, 'tis the season. So jump on in, make some trellises. They're fun. Well, here we are in the planters. We are now planting sweet peas, sugar snap peas, planted some marigolds in here, and then we got a bunch of ever-bearing strawberries. So we're going to have all kinds of fun stuff here. We will do a follow-up video in the future as well. All right, folks, there you have it. Some simple trellises. Again, if you want to learn more about trellises, you can check out that other video. Drop a comment down below if you have some questions or something you'd like me to see. We got this amazing space, 3 acres, lots of outdoor projects planned. But if there's something like, hey, that would make a great video, kind of woodwork meets home and garden, drop a comment down below. We'll try and implement it. Of course, any other questions, let me know. If you are interested in purchasing those beds, you can look at the links down below. Really affordable compared to a lot of the other ones out there, and probably a lot simpler than the other ones I've made getting my own materials together. So definitely take a look at that. Well, main channel, 6-8 Woodworks. We got all kinds of woodworking projects, lots of cool stuff. But we just recently did purchase this beautiful home with this property, and gonna do a lot more home and garden projects. We'll still be doing outdoor builds on our main channel, but we are gonna start doing more home and garden projects. So you can check out that other channel, 6-8 Home and Garden, for some more projects and that, you know, homestead type vibe, as well as other just home things. So anyway, if it did add value, consider subscribing to either channel and see some upcoming fun content. Well, thank you for watching. Take care. Until next time.